Hi, everyone. Welcome to Pink Nest. I think this is going to be our pre-last episode. This recording, another one, and we are done for this season. And I'm super excited to welcome Hannah to the podcast. She's a somatic channel, nervous system specialist, and a founder of Untamed Divine Feminine. I love the title. Welcome, Hannah, to the podcast. Super excited to have you here.
Thank you. Me too. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
We always start at the beginning, childhood. I know that no childhood is alike, and we all have some special memories to it. What was Hannah as a child, and what kind of a girl were you when you were growing up?
When I saw this question, I was like, what a great question. I love this so much. I was highly, highly, highly sensitive. I was a bit of a nervous kid. One of my memory is that I was like nervous, maybe a little bit uneasy, feels like from birth. I would be anxious about a lot, worry about a lot of thinking in my head. And then I also loved to dance. So like express and move through my body. There are videos of me when I was, probably around 4, maybe even younger, where I'm dancing, I'm dressed up in these beautiful, like sort of outfits that my mom had made, and dancing and taking myself very, very, very seriously with this. And yeah, that's like, so I'll be honest, I struggle to remember a lot about my childhood. It's just, I don't have an amazing long-term memory. But those are the two sort of main things: very sensitive and dancing a lot.
So this sensitivity that you've mentioned, is this something that was somehow already paving a way towards who you are today, you would say? Yeah?
100%. Yeah. Like 100%. I am a highly, highly sensitive being. I am a triple water sign for anyone who's to astrology. I am a Scorpio, Pisces. I go deep. I go deep into the human experience. I go deep into feelings, which is no surprise being a sensitive person, because I take in, I read energy, I understand energy, and looking back on my childhood, I have a much better understanding now that I am who I am and I do what I do, why I was so sensitive, because I was reading energy. I now am an energy worker, and I channel and connect with other beings. And I wasn't like that when I was younger. I know that there are a lot of people who have stories who are like, oh, I was seeing things when I was a child. I was having interactions with other dimensions from that point. That wasn't my experience. I wasn't necessarily spiritually connected in that way as a young child, or at least not aware of that connection. But now looking back, I understand, I can read. I was reading other people's energies, but as a child didn't know how to process that, didn't have the tools to understand, which led to me actually shutting down my intuition, because I would look to other people outside of me, probably starting with my parents and then my teachers and my peers, to tell me what was right, because I didn't trust the feeling I had inside, because a lot of people present one way and then are actually maybe feeling or projecting something different. And I was constantly reading that, but because I was like, well, I can't be right, I shut down that intuition. And then the last few years has been a journey back to that.
I think a lot of us adults struggle with the same story, because a lot of people are saying things and then you read them completely the opposite, and you're like, is this really, should I trust my intuition, or should I just trust this person, what this person is saying? It can be well and challenging. I can imagine how it must be for a child, particularly. Probably.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And now straightforward, business. So you've built a multi-six-figure business, which I think most people would definitely see as the definition of success, because, everything today revolves around money. And I think, it's an easy way to put it. What was the chapter actually like on the inside? And when did you start sensing something was deeply wrong?
Yeah, I always like to start this kind of conversation off by saying I love money. Like, money is not a bad thing. lots of money in the hands of good people is, I think, nothing but a good thing. Where I found that things were off and felt disconnected were when money was my only measure of success, which was where I found myself. I was an event producer for 15 years, which I know you can relate to. And I started out working in corporations for event companies. And then I went out on my own and started building a business from there for myself, freelancing. And that's where I built up to this multi six figures. And that was a huge part of why I went out. There was two reasons. I initially felt like I had this very distinct moment, probably about 6 months before I decided to leave the corporate space, where I was like, oh, I know I'm meant for more in my career, in my work life. And I know that if I stay here right now, it'll be fine. I'll probably like inch my way up. But in 5 years, I'm going to look back and think, oh, I could have expanded much quicker. And then secondarily, I was like, I can make more money than this. I remember my partner at the time was making like double what I was making. And I was like, and he worked in the same industry. And I was like, wait a second, I can make more. So those were sort of my two things where I was like, this is why I'm going out. And I didn't know, my mom worked for herself her whole life, but as a writer, I didn't have a lot of like direct entrepreneurs around me building businesses. I was very lucky to have a couple mentors, which was really nice. But to me, my two goals were like making money and getting clients, which makes total sense when you go out on your own. But especially in the event space, it's a lot of pressure. It's fast paced. It's, can we do this yesterday? A lot of dysregulation in everyone's nervous system around you. So there's not a lot of co-regulating that's happening. I wasn't taking care of myself at all because I'd be on these sort of roller coasters of building up to an event, and I was not eating well, not exercising, moving my body. I would sit down at my desk, hyper focused, work. And so I was building, I had some incredible opportunities. I kept getting work. When I initially went out, I said, hey, if I can meet what at minimum what my salary was, I'll keep going. And I did. I met what my salary would have been. And then I just kept going. And every year the money increased, the people increased. I had to do very little outbound marketing. My work spoke for itself. People would come back to me and I was like, this is going really well, until basically the pandemic, where we all had a chance to kind of slow down and take a look around. I was still working because I pivoted hard and I was doing a lot of online events, but still there was more space. And I was like, that was the first inkling. I was like, wait a second, this doesn't feel quite aligned with my values, but I don't even know what my values are. I had never spent time thinking about that in a real way. And so I started on this journey. And then in the fall of 2021, I hit a massive burnout, like an extreme burnout. And it was both from a professional and a personal lens. It was kind of coming at me from both sides. And my body basically stopped me in my tracks to be like, this is, something's not working here and you're not listening to the signals that have been previously sent. So we're going to make it really dramatic, which is kind of the way I like to go. Speaking of being a child, I often got labeled as dramatic. But I realized that like I couldn't continue the way I was continuing, even though I had no idea what that really meant. And so I started to sort of dig deeper and realize like my work really was misaligned. It was time to move away into a different space that felt more connected. Shortly after that, I got diagnosed with ADHD in my early 30s. Actually, my whole family basically did. My dad did, I did, and then my sister did, which was like a big revelation in our family. And so then that also led me to understand why I had been so good at parts of my job previously. I was sourcing a lot of external worth from it, but realized like something has to change. I was really wealthy from a money sense, but the other areas of my life, I didn't feel fulfilled. And that's a big difference, right? Success and fulfillment aren't always the same thing, especially if we're following someone else's definition of success, which I certainly was.
Yeah, there are definitely a few things I can really hardly relate to. First is late ADHD diagnosed. Welcome to the club.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Second is I think that people are completely unaware how full of neurodivergent people event industries and creative industries in general are.
The entire thing.
Everywhere. Yeah, we are everywhere.
Yep.
And I think it's also great that you've pointed out how stressful the industry is, because at the same time, as I said, I think most of the people are completely unaware of all the work, of all the stress, of all the long hours, of all the everything that pours into one event. I think really people are blissfully unaware how hard it can be. And I mean, I can say from my research, the burnout and depression rates in the events industry are super, super high. It's no wonder we are one of the most stressful industries in the world. So yeah, it's really, it's not easy out there. But somehow you have managed to rebuild yourself from everything. And you think you've mentioned, and this is something I really related to, rebuilding from alignment rather than survival, which is actually a amazing point. Are you able to explain a little bit more? What does this distinction actually mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking about stress in the industry, for me, as you know, a high achieving woman since I was in grade school, I remember like initially it was about academics and I would get really good grades. And that was how I sort of proved my worth, coming home with my report card, telling my parents how well I'd done, getting awards in both grade school and then into high school. I really, really measured that worth through my academic achievements. And then moving into the industry, I started to measure that worth based on how much people were like, you're amazing at this, you're so good, you can fit, like, I'm really good at looking at the end goal of what someone wants and then taking all these steps back to figure out how we're going to get there, how long it's going to take, the timing, when we need to do what. And part of that's innate. Part of that, I built the skills over time, obviously, of doing this again and again and again. And the more people said I was good, the more I wanted to produce an output. The more I would get hired for new roles, get promoted, or then when I started working for myself, getting new clients, like it was such a rush. I was like, wow, this is amazing. People want me to come and do this. But that's also the part of the industry that is not so great. I mean, there's a number of parts of it, but the workforce has to overproduce. So if you are a leader in the workforce, you are constantly saying, you're doing amazing, sweetie, because I need you to show up tomorrow, even though you've just worked 15 hours today. I need you to be here tomorrow again and do the same thing and overextend yourself. So especially for neurodivergent people, I feel like we thrive off of that because we have, growing up, felt so out of place and like we're maybe not getting it right because some of our executive functioning doesn't work as well. And so we love that rush of being praised, right? But that also becomes a nervous system state. And so for me, I was in a state of fight, flight a lot of the time, majority of the time, just like constantly working anxious, always feeling behind, trying to get on top of things, always feeling like there was more to do, more on the to-do list. And like I mentioned previously, ignoring the other parts of me that I really needed to be attending to. And then when this burnout hit, I was like, okay, I started to learn a lot more about my nervous system, about neuroscience. I worked with a therapist who did cognitive behavioral therapy, which was sort of my like into understanding more about the nervous system and how it works in our different states and how we need to be able to flexibly move between the two, understanding and becoming more aware of the signals in my body. And then I realized my body's telling me when I'm in a situation that is not sustainable for me. It will give me every single signal I need. In fact, a great example of this is yesterday. I was in office with a client. I still do some project management work. I was in office with a client, and on the way home, my stomach, my gut felt like it was like so tight. It was like in knots. It was bracing. And sometimes I'll dismiss that as like, oh, I ate something that didn't feel good. But yesterday I really clued in. I was like, oh, today felt stressful. Today was not a fun day. There's a lot of like kind of angst amongst the team. And I was like, oh, this is my body saying, nuh-uh, this doesn't feel good. And so the body sends up those signals. And if we're able to learn how to listen to those signals and really our intuition at the end of the day, which is our core truth, we can become much more aligned in what we do. And so for me, alignment looked like, number one, taking rest when I needed rest. I'm into human design. I'm a projector. Projectors are not meant to do all the doing. They are meant to rest, build rest into their days, into their weeks. Like, so spaciousness and rest, big thing for me. But as someone who learned to earn her worth through doing more and more and more, that felt really uncomfortable at the beginning. But now I understand that, like, the to-do list it doesn't matter if I'm pushing myself, because at some point I'm going to have a mini burnout. So I might as well take the rest when I can. It meant really thinking about the clients that I take on and the reasons why I take on these clients. I don't just say yes because the money's there. It's thinking about what I'm talking about, who I'm interacting with, how I'm supporting. And really, first and foremost, is the work that I'm doing and how I'm doing it allowing me to be in a state that feels supportive for my body, for my system, even though that doesn't look like what someone else might be doing. Because this is a huge thing, right? It's so easy to compare. It's so easy to look over there and be like, well, Lucy is handling this really well. Why can't I handle this? And we have to understand that each system is different. And also, we don't actually know how Lucy's handling this. We just think we know. We think she looks like she's got it all under control. She might be drowning inside. So it was a lot of like coming into connection with myself and understanding, what do I want and what does my body, what feels good in my body when it comes to work and how I work and what I work on. And then a lot of courage to show up as the person that I really was versus the person that I was masking to be to please others.
I think this is a very important point. First of all, burnout really shows there is no like pattern that works for everybody. So it can show for each person completely differently. And I'm actually glad that you've mentioned stomach, because you know yourself better than me, because you are in this business. It's actually our second brain. And it's actually this gut feeling that we keep mentioning all the time. The research is currently proving that this is actually the true feeling. And we not often, but 99% of the people actually dismiss it. Either we are not in tune with ourselves and we just say, okay, yeah, maybe we're hungry, or maybe we had a bad lunch or something. But if we would be true to ourselves and in tune with ourselves and our inner feelings, I would argue that most of the things can be recognized just by listening to your body. If sometimes you meet a person and you have this strange feeling about somebody, like, nothing is wrong with the person, like physically or, but you have this feeling. And then usually what happens is after, a month or two, you hear from this, or something is, he or she, something is wrong, or somebody had a bad experience. Like, yeah, but I had that feeling before. I just didn't pay attention to it. This is really, I always find it so fascinating speaking about this, how actually our body is telling us everything. We're just not listening most of the time, unfortunately.
100%. Before my burnout, my body was signaling to me, like initially quieter signals, and then they got louder and louder and louder. When I look back now, I knew something was wrong, but I was dismissing it, or I was attributing it to something else. I knew like the truth was there. That's something that I work very closely with women on, with female leaders, is it's not necessarily they don't know the truth or their intuition or their gut feeling. It's more about how do we decondition ourselves from ignoring it, because we know, we just, maybe, at least definitely in my experience, I was ignoring the thing I knew because of fear of, a long list of things.
Yeah, but I think we're also preconditioned to this. Like, people are saying, you say, I'm having a strange feeling on my stomach, or I have a headache, and people are like, yeah, you're too sensitive, and I think this is just the way we were brought up, or at least I can speak for myself. It's like, this is dismissive, just you're always complaining something is wrong, or I don't know, and you just feel something is off. But, I think the society we live in, it's not really the landscape that embraces this, what we are speaking now, which should be actually the other way around. We should be embraced from childhood onwards, actually.
Totally. Yeah. And I also think it becomes difficult. Like, I have a very clear example of this. Going back to talking about like reading people when I was younger, as I got into my 20s, I became more aware of this, but I had internalized it as being really judgmental. So I would meet people, or I'd be friends with people. We'd have like someone in our friend group, and I'd start to be like, "Ooh, something's off here. Like, this person is maybe not evolving at the same rate that the group is evolving as we move through our years. There's something off." But I'd always be the person who was like a year to 2 years ahead in sensing this. So then I just kind of have to sit and wait around till the rest of the group kind of caught up and understood what was going on, or wanted to at least admit what was going on. Right? And then, then that person sort of ended up like kind of not being part of the group as much anymore, just almost naturally. But like, then you kind of make it, I feel like I'm being so judgmental. I should be more understanding. This person's going through X, Y, Z. But I'm like, it's hard to be the person who notices something and is like, something is wrong here. Why does no one get this? The same thing in the corporate space. I'm sure you felt that too.
Same. It's the same today. Actually, I still sometimes feel like, I'm a party pooper, or people say, yeah, you're always judgmental. But sometimes it's almost to the point like I'm just quiet because I don't want to, ruin this experience for everybody.
Totally.
I mean, it's strange with my age, but still, sometimes I'm just quiet because I know it's going to happen. I can sense it. I can feel it, but I'm just like, let them run a few more circles, and they will surely come to the same conclusion. I'm just quiet because, a lot of times you're then seen as either too sensitive, or you're just making things up, or
difficult.
Judgmental. Difficult. You are not going along with anybody. It's not even that something bothers you. It's just different. It's not...
It's not bad or good.
It's hard to explain. For me, even at my age, I can just imagine how it is when you're younger. I mean, I went through this, so I understand. But still, if somebody is really young now and trying to explain, I can't even with my age. So it's hard. But to the point that sometimes you're just better to be quiet and you just sit and observe. And eventually you come to the same, I mean, everybody else comes to the same conclusion. It's just, it takes a little bit more time. Hard. Anyway, let's talk a little bit now, because I do we're already almost half an hour into the chat, but I definitely want to talk a little bit more about you being a nervous system specialist. We touched already this, and the untamed divine feminine. Tell me a little bit more for people who are not experienced in this wording, who don't have a clue what's going on, what this all means. Please tell us a little bit more about all this.
Yeah, absolutely. So I work predominantly with female leaders, and that's a very broad category. That can mean in your community, that can mean in your family, it can mean at work. I believe that all women are leaders. But thinking about like, from what place do you want to lead from? And I came to the work that I do now through a personal lens. I have gone through all of this myself, and then understood how life-changing it is and how important it is for women to understand themselves and who they truly are, not the projection that society puts on us. And so I blend nervous system work, neuroscience, with energy work and sort of divine feminine leadership. And the reason why I blend those two things is because one is about coming into relationship with yourself, devoting time to yourself and understanding yourself and getting to that. And I'll explain in a moment what I mean by untamed divine feminine. And the other part, the nervous system work, is about supporting that work, because it's not comfortable. And this is the thing that I sometimes hesitate to say, because our world really dislikes discomfort these days, but it's not comfortable work. It is hard work. It's the most rewarding work that I have ever done and have seen for other people that they've ever done, but there's discomfort in it. And so when we create the nervous system understanding, we build the nervous system rituals and tools to allow us to continue doing this work and continue moving towards our desires. That allows the longevity, allows us to keep going. And then from the untamed divine feminine side, this is something that I have really, again, come into a relationship with myself. I was operating from a heavy masculine place, actually a very wounded masculine place. And for those who are not as familiar with masculine and feminine energy, all of us have both inside of us. It's not gendered. It is a balance. It's a yin and it's a yang. And we are, the work that I do is ideally finding that balance. But I tend to work with a lot of high achieving women who have been in their hyper masculine state for a long time, which has led to a lot of survival mode. And it's helping them come back into relationship with their divine feminine. But sometimes people hear that word feminine energy and they think soft, passive, very like, slow and chill. And I don't see that. Those are some elements of it, but that's not my divine feminine. And the reason I call it untamed is because it's all the parts of us. It's the parts of us that we've hidden, that we've caged, that we've locked behind because we thought they were wrong. But it's about our wildness, our joy, our rage. Sacred rage is something that I work with women a lot on, because I believe deeply that once we are able to express that rage in a safe space, that we are able to clear the way for truth. It's about our bigness, our wildness, but also our receptivity, our nurturing both to self and to others in our community. So it's not just about being a mom and pouring into other people's cups. It's about nurture, yes, but the balance of nurture, the reciprocal nature of nurture. It's also about understanding how connected we are and how like nature we are, that we are cyclical, that we are not meant to just grow in an exponential, expanded way forever, just on this like upward trajectory. We have seasons of expansion and contraction. And how do we actually build those into our business or into our lives and not make them feel like failure because I'm not doing what I should be doing to constantly increase my income, increase my reach, increase my engagement, whatever that is, can like keep climbing the corporate ladder. There are going to be seasons where life is lifing and it doesn't allow for that, but that's actually how we are meant to be. If you look in nature, trees do not just grow all the time. In fact, there is a study that someone talked to me about, which I really need to look up. Someone shared this with me, where they did, I think, like artificially they did something so that trees were growing exponentially all the time. They didn't have their rest periods, and these trees did not thrive. And what a perfect example that like we see success, the model of success out there, that we just have to keep growing, keep stacking our bank account, keep exponentially expanding, and never taking time to retreat, to replenish, to recover. So this untamed divine feminine is at its core coming back to really like connection with your sacral, with your womb space, your energetic womb space. Again, men and women both have this, and getting in touch with your intuition and being comfortable with following and understanding that intuition, because our bodies are so intelligent, like you were mentioning. They will know when something is off or we need to do something before our minds can even get on board. So if we learn how to listen to them, it's actually an incredible strategy for business and for life. But yeah, I do work with women on the nervous system. I do work with them through the energy work I do, which is somatic channeling, and then really helping connect them to their desires, because desires are a blueprint, which I think some of us think that it's a distraction from the blueprint. Like, oh, I want this thing over here, but I should really be practical and do this thing instead. But once we start following our true desires, we actually get the blueprint. We get the answers that we've been seeking for most of our lives.
I love that answer. I think that, as I mentioned already before, I think the whole world around us is trying terribly hard to disconnect us from everything, from our feminine energy, from our balance, from being ourselves, from everything that you're mentioning. So I would like to wrap it up, and I really want you to have the final saying in this. For a woman listening right now who is probably high achieving but quietly exhausted, and beginning to wonder if there is a different way to what she wants, what would you most want her to hear from you today?
There is 100% a different way to get what you want. And it doesn't involve having to shut down your dreams, shut down your desires. I have seen over and over again too many times to deny the truth of this for women, especially, but the sort of energetic laws of divine feminine energy is that like the less we do, the more that we get, the more magnetic we become. And that's not to say that hard work isn't involved in building a business or going after what you want. And it's not to say that there isn't commitment and consistency involved. But I have seen over and over again, when I am pushing, when I am forcing, when I'm trying to make something happen, it is not as magnetic and magical as when I just take my foot off the gas a little bit, be still, take some space, and then things start flowing towards me. So there is absolutely a different way. I want you to trust that feeling inside of you that says, this isn't it. If you feel like you are meant for more, there's a reason for that. Your desires are placed within you for a reason. It's not this like random thought or feeling that you have. There's a reason, and please start to follow those threads, because that is how I got to where I am today. I had no idea what would happen, how it would evolve. There was no guarantee, no certainty. And I just started following the threads. And that's, please, please, please do that, because we are taught that that is selfish or that we are taking from others. So, if we do that, it is not selfish. Actually, I think it's one of the most selfless things we can do, because we then give permission to others to do the same thing. And the one other thing I'll say is your like best strategy is to get comfortable with uncertainty. When you can get really comfortable with uncertainty, when you can create that nervous system flexibility to work with uncertainty, you are going to fly through what you want to do, because it's often the control we need for certainty that stagnates us.
I would just add, as you've said before, AI, it might be hard, it might be uncomfortable, but you need to just start. And as you said, things will just start flowing. I think this first step is always the hardest. But I would also just chip in, if you feel something is wrong, 100% something is, and go with that feeling, because the longer you dismay it, the longer you make it like it's not important, the bigger the problem, and the bigger, everything is just not flowing in the right direction. That's my take on it.
Totally agreed. Trust yourself. Trust yourself.
Hannah, thank you so much. I could be speaking about this forever. I really am super excited, because I can totally feel how aligned we are with experiences and with what we are trying to achieve in this world and share forward and pass forward. Thank you so much for being my guest. It was a lovely discussion.
Thank you so much for having me. And I love having these conversations with people who just get it. So thank you for that opportunity.
Thank you.